Hello, or how we say in Italy, buongiorno. Buongiorno. All right, so yeah, today we will talk of a new config file, another config file that you will have in your package root. Are you happy about it? Yes? No? Well, we will see about it. So yeah, I mostly do Node.js work-related stuff, so we will talk about later. So yeah, let's start. So in the past years, Node.js shifted from one of the like paradigms that is called small core. So in the past, Node.js did not have many features that were available as NPM packages. So if you wanted a test runner, you had to download an NPM package. If you wanted whatever, you had to download an NPM package. So you had to download a lot of NPM package, and your Node modules were huge. But nowadays, Node.js shifted to a more built, like batteries included, like paradigm. So now Node.js started shipping a lot of new features that are actually needed. For example, the test runner. So let's do a quick survey. How many of you are using the test runner? Not many people. So, well, you should definitely use it because it's, well, fast and it works very well. Watch mode, like, who's using watch mode? All right. So if you're using Nodemon, you can dump that and use watch. It's built-in in Node.js. How about native TypeScript? Do you know that Node.js can run TypeScript by default? I've been working on this feature for the past year. So yeah. So finally, you can run TypeScript without the transpilation. You run node file.ts. It works. It's not the TypeScript that you probably know. It has some differences, but it's cool. It has coverage, so you can run test coverage without installing Istanbul or like C8. It's built in. And it also has a permission model. So like you can, let's say, sandbox the Node.js application, so it cannot access the file system, it cannot access the network. So it brings a bit more security into the runtime. So a lot of new features, and there are many more features that I could not mention here, but a lot. The issue with having this many features is that they require a lot of configuration. So for example, these are some of the flags that you need to configure the test runner. And then you have some more flags to configure the watcher. And then you have some more for the permission model, some more for the coverage, and like some even more for tracing, and boom. Like you need to have a PhD to know like all the possible configurations that you like how you can configure Node.js. It's crazy. I don't even know all of them because there are so many flags. Sometimes I discover new flags and I say like, I could have used this in my application, and instead of downloading an NPM package, it was already built in. But there are so many of them that it's hard to keep track. All right, so let's do a little show off here. So, you know, you can run TypeScript natively now, but enums are not available by default. So you need to use this flag called experimental transform types to be able to use TypeScript enums. So let's say we want to start a new application that uses TypeScript, that use enums. Don't use enums, they're bad, but if you really have to, use this flag. All right, so we have a file.ts. We try to run it. So we run node -- experimental transform types file.ts, and boom, it works. It prints some output and also prints an experimental warning because it's still experimental. All right, so can we remove the experimental warning? Yes, we can. We need another flag to do it. We need disable warning, experimental warning. All right, so now it works. It prints out red, and that's it. So we want to run some tests in our application. We are moving forward. Like, are we running tests? You sure? Are you all running tests? Yeah, tough crowd. So you also need to use --test, this flag right here, --test. It will also behave as a test runner. And then we also want to add test coverage. So we need to add the flag experimental test coverage lines 100% because we want 100% test coverage. And then we also want to add watch. So like as you can see, the arguments for the node process are starting to get very, very long. And if you put this inside your package.json, people like working on the project will be like this, like, what's this? I need a very wide monitor to read all the configuration that I'm passing to Node.js. And the developer experience is not great, like when you are using all these native flags. So can we do it better? Yes, we can. So if you run, if you check the node manual, run man node, you will have a bunch of like explanation of all the possible configurations, blah, blah, blah. There is also a part dedicated to the environment variables that Node.js reads. So colors, like some configurations, but the important one is node options, this one right here. So what is node options? Node options is basically a list of configuration flags that you can pass to the Node.js process. So it's another way of configuring Node, but through an environment variable. Mind that not all configurations are allowed in Node options. Let's look at an example. So you can set the environment variable Node options. It's particularly useful when you're running CLI command, like a binary CLI command, like npx, where you cannot pass the flags directly. You cannot do npx -- something, blah, blah, blah. But you need to use node options to configure it. In this case, I'm using abort on uncaught exception. It helps me debug in case I have like some uncaught exception. So node options is particularly useful for this. So in our test application, we can set the node option, we can set experimental transform types, disable warnings, test coverage. We can set all of this in the node options. So we run again, we have less flags than right now, and it still works. So that's cool. Another step, another improvement we can do is to use a new feature of Node.js, which is --env file. So if you are used to .env, like I think everybody here uses .env, you can drop it, you don't need it anymore. It's built in Node.js. So you can load an environment like a .env file with this flag. In this case, we have moved the node options in the m file, and we run it. So --m file .env, and again it works. But this is cool, but like it's still like one big string with all the possible configuration, and if we have a lot, it's like the developer experience still sucks. Can we do better? Yes, we can. So what Node.js is missing is a file-based initialization configuration. That is not package.json. Package.json is a manifest for publishing. It has nothing to do with the runtime configuration. Even though a lot of libraries use it for the configuration, it's not meant for that purpose. You have, in other languages, you have like PHP, .ini, you have so many different configurations files for other runtimes and languages. And also, in the Node.js competitor space, we have dino.json and banfig toml. A lot of people in the in the Node.js area are like purists. They think that Node.js should not add new features. It should stay true to the old small core paradigm. I don't agree. I think we need to provide batteries to developers because all developers will write tests. They want the essential features that we all need. So it's good to look at what others are doing and take some inspiration. This feature has been discussed for a while. Like, how do we do this? What kind of configuration format do we use? Do we use JSON? Do we use YAML? No, thank you. Do we use, I don't know, like people started suggesting all sorts of like weird configuration formats and but in reality, in the JavaScript ecosystem, JSON is king. Like we use JSON for everything, so it makes more sense to use JSON. So last year in February, I had nothing better to do, so I sent a PR. At the time, we wanted to call this new configuration file Node.js, but it was already taken by a random library on the internet, so we don't want to break other libraries. So yeah, I sent a PR, it got merged, and finally, in Node 23.10, we shipped experimental config file. So finally, we have a configuration file for the Node.js runtime. So how does this file work? Well, you have two options. You can either choose your own config file. You can call it foo.json. You can call whatever you want, and then you can pass the experimental. Oh wait. So actually this one. So you can pass the experimental-config file. So you can specify the path of your JSON. You can call it whatever you want, and Node will parse the JSON file and read all the options. Or you can call it node.config.json, and you can pass this flag experimental default config file. So this flag is just temporary. It will be removed. So in the future, like Node.js, when you start the Node.js application, Node will read the node.config.json automatically, like you don't need extra flags. But for the time being, since this is an experimental feature and it might break a lot of people, we put it behind the flag. So if you have in the root of your application the node.config.json, Node will read it, will parse it. Something interesting is that Node.js internally, to parse JSON, uses a dependency called simd.json. It's a C++ JSON parser, and it's very fast. So it's not it's not like JSON.parse config file. It's all written in C++. It's quite performant, but we will talk about performance later. So you can also use your package.json as your config file. So, there are some libraries like Jest, like linters that put all their config into the package.json. If you're into that, you can do it. But this is a topic that we'll discuss further later because it caused some controversies. So this is what the JSON node config file looks like. So you have a schema. A JSON schema. This is extremely useful because you will have auto-completion in your IDE. So once you start writing test, you will have all the test options available. This makes it a lot simpler because nobody knows how many test options are out there. So use the schema property, and it has to match the Node.js versions that you are using. This is probably the only way to make sure that the schema matches the available options on your Node application. If there is a mismatch between these two, like you might have some features that have been removed, some features that have been added, so you will need to match the version of the schema with the Node.js version. Then you have the node options namespace, and here you can dump all sort of configuration that you want. But this is not it. So we can even improve this because there are some limitation. For example, the node options, not all options are allowed as node options because some flags, for example, --test, you cannot put it into the node option because it would, it might cause some issues. I don't know specifically, but they're not allowed. Not all V8 flags are allowed, and you might be asking, what are V8 flags? So Node.js uses V8 internally, and some of this configuration is relative to how V8 behaves, not Node.js itself, but V8. An example of this is stack trace limit. You can increase the stack trace limit by a lot. So, for example, if you are nostalgic, so you can see here a huge stack trace in JavaScript. So this is useful when you are debugging things that are super nested into application. So if you are nostalgic of the Java days and you feel like you want to bring some of those long stack trace into Node.js, you can use this this configuration. So another example is expose GC. You can force garbage collection in Node.js, like a low-level stuff that V8 allows you to do. And not all of these are properly supported. The reason is not technical. I was just too lazy to implement it well because this feature is still very experimental. So if you want to help with this, we can discuss later. You can give me a hand. Also, no OP flags are not allowed. Like, for some reason, there are some flags in Node.js that do nothing. Like, you pass a flag and it does nothing. So I thought that it was better not to allow those because, they're useless. So when a flag is present in both the node options, CLI, config file, and node options from .env, you have conflicts because you are trying to load configuration from different places. So this is the priority list. So first of all, you have the CLI. So if you pass a flag in the CLI, that takes priority. Then you have node options. Then you have config file. And then you have node options from config file. So if you pass the same flag, you will have to check this list to know which one is prioritized. Another thing that was requested is a test runner global configuration. Like, there are so many test runner flags and we need one way to configure it. And again, I had nothing better to do, so I implemented it. So Node.24 features a new namespace called config test runner. So it enables the full configuration of the test runner. For example, you can specify that the test coverage is true. Mind that this flag, experimental test coverage, is not available in node options. So you could not configure it before with node options. So it's only available in this specific namespace. So namespace have more power than node options, so you can configure more things, but you still have to follow the schema because not everything is enabled. For example, --test is not allowed even in the namespace test runner because you have to be explicit with it. Yeah, so you can see the test runner namespace. All right, so by running node --experimental default config file --watch and test, we have configured our Node.js application. So what before was like a huge list of arguments, now it's very short. Mind that the default config file might go away very soon when it's unflagged. So I think this is a quite big win for the ecosystem because it's cleaner, it's smoother. But there are some things. So a lot of people ask me if this makes my application startup slower, And the answer is technically yes, because you are reading from the file system and parsing a JSON. But in reality, unless you are in like cold startup environments like Lambdas or other like environments, like there is no reason why you would care about this. Simply because you already have like 1 GB of node modules and all of those files are being parsed. So like one more file is not going to make your application slower. Why not? Why JSON and why not like YAML, ini, TOML? Because like in Node.js we already have a JSON parser. So while we don't have a YAML parser and we don't want a YAML parser, so it was quite easy to do to use JSON. Also, it's widely used in the industry. You have a package JSON, so it made more sense to use JSON, even though it's probably not the best for configuration, but it's the one that does the job, and we like it. Should I publish my node.config.json on npm? Well, you could, but like, do you want to? Like, what value is bringing to the users? Because Node.js will not look in the node modules for node.config.json, so it will only look in the one that you provided. So it's useless. It's just one extra file on the internet, and it's kind of waste of network. So you should not publish it. Is it production ready? Depends on what you mean production ready. You can use it, but the API might change and the schema might change. So I might break your application. If you're okay with that, you can use it. Otherwise, don't. Can I put custom configuration in node.config.json? You can dump all that you want in the node.config.json, but Node.js is going to ignore it. Because the way that we parse the JSON is we only look for certain fields and we ignore everything else. This is why it's much faster than parsing the whole JSON and like JSON.parse does. So yes, you can put whatever garbage you want, but like Node will not care about it. And so what's next? What's going to happen? Like what's coming? So more namespaces. So the next thing is going to be watch. So you can configure the watcher. So hot reload of your application. This is something so the way that we have made namespaces makes it quite easy to add new namespaces. So like I might even open a PR this afternoon. It's quite easy. Help text in the JSON schema. So when you in your IDE, in the auto-completion, you will have the description of what the flag does. So this is useful for people who don't know exactly or are looking for a specific flag, but they don't know what the flag does specifically. So this will help a lot of people. So we got into the controversial part. So I got some feedback and people were not happy of having yet another config file. They want to use package.json. And so I went on the internet, I looked a little bit, and I Googled like node config problem, and like how to escape the Node.js config chaos, the creeping scourge of tooling config files in project root. And I was like, damn, I already shipped this feature. Like people might hate me because of I created another config file. So I opened a survey. So should we change the default value of should we just use package.json for everything? And like not everyone is on the same page. And I think using package.json might be a bad idea, but it could also make some people happy. Even though making the package.json bigger means more data on the network because you have to publish it, makes things slower for everyone. I don't know how, if you want to express your opinion, you can still vote. This is in the Node.js discussions. So you can go on GitHub and the discussion section of Node.js, and you will find this discussion, and you can express your opinion. So finally, next thing to do is to mark as release candidate when it's more mature, and finally unflag the default config file, hoping we don't break the ecosystem. So yeah, thanks for listening. Here's my social media, so if you want to get in touch. Thank you.